It is Saturday the 30th of August, about 8 am. I'm outside getting some fresh air and sunlight. It definitely feels like August is starting to roll in, so I'm just squeezing in the nicest weather where I can before it goes. And I'm sitting with some ceremonial grey cacao. I have seasoned it with ginger and cinnamon. I've just started my bleed. I started last night, so I'm still technically in day one. And I felt like something a bit more gentler, so I put ginger and cinnamon in. Cinnamon feels very gentle for me, and ginger is amazing for womb health. Now throughout luteal, this luteal that I've just been through felt, I guess you could say, dark and heavy, but not in a bad way. Someone's coming. I'm still getting used to this vlogging outside. It is 8 am and there's literally nobody apart from one person walking their dog. However, luteal. So luteal I feel is such a misunderstood cycle. Such a misunderstood season of our cycle. There's so many men and women that believe that like, luteal is just that time where we're just like irrational and hot-headed and emotional, and okay, yes, we can be, but I always say that luteal, whatever emotions are coming up throughout luteal, they're asking for your attention. It's your body's way of communicating. So it's, if we're not sitting and feeling into them, then yes, they're going to show up and they're going to come out as uglier ways, and we're going to start taking them out on the people around us. So then we come across as like snappy and moody and hormonal and PMS kind of symptoms. Whereas if we can take the time to actually lean into them and feel into them and understand and unravel, then we don't have to project them out in uglier ways. So for me, this luteal has been, I say dark and heavy, but only because I sank so deep into my womb and started like unraveling these core beliefs that I guess I wasn't fully aware of. I maybe dipped my toe in a little, but I feel like this luteal really let me dive deep into it. And now my bleed has come, and of course it feels like a release, but I feel like my body's like, it's still asking for some attention. So today I am hosting a cold dip. Now with it being August, it's actually one of the best times of the year to do it in terms of like it being the hottest. In terms of the water temperature. However, I don't like my body temperature dropping too much when I'm on my bleed. And I had decided to plan 2 dips today. I sync everything around my menstrual cycle, yet when it comes to dips, I love getting in the water. I also have a fear of getting in the water, but I love conquering that fear and then really enjoying being in the water. So whenever there's like dips on offer on the table, I'm always like, yes, let's go. So every month I host a cold dip. I used to do them every Saturday, but it just wasn't feasible for me with everything else I'm trying to do. So I've changed them to once a month. So it's a community cold dip. So we're all meeting up. And in my head, when I woke up this morning, I was like, I need to get in because I'm hosting it. I need to get in. However, I don't. I can just be there. I can video. I can join in the community aspect. So I'm going to go along, but I'm going to keep myself warm. And then I'm meeting up with a friend later, and we are going for a dip then. And I do like being in the water when I'm on my bleed because it feels all flowy and free, and I feel like I can actually like soften into it, and it's not like it's a terrible time of the year. It's not going to be freezing. So I will go later. I'm just going to be a bit more prepared. So I'll have like fluffy socks with me. I'm going to make some ginger tea, both for drinking and then for pouring over my feet afterwards, because warm feet, warm womb, and ginger is again amazing for womb health. So I'll take a few little bits and bobs that are going to help me regulate my body's temperature again after the dip later. However, I'm just going to enjoy a slow morning with the community. And yes, I've had my gig house, so my intention was to open my heart to new connections, new experiences, and this new cycle that I am embarking on. So we're just going to get started with the day, and I will take you along. Today we visited Arbirlot Waterfalls. Now I have a super soft spot for this place simply because how much nature surrounds it, and it is so peaceful being in the water. Now I started this group, Dundee Dip Club, back at the end of 2021, start of 2022, and it was simply just to bring like-minded people together and get in the cold water, and it has really grown into so much more. The community aspect has really made my heart all warm and fuzzy lately, seeing the numbers starting to grow. Now it's been a little bit of a journey with Dundee Dip Club because we used to dip every Saturday morning. However, trying to run a few businesses, stay on top of my training, just life in general, it was a little hard to keep hosting them every single weekend. So I ended up drifting away from it for about a year, and it was the start of this year I felt I really needed to kickstart it again. So I decided we would do one social a month. So some of the group members do still go every Saturday. However, we do a social once a month. So we will go for a dip and then we will all grab some brunch together. Now, I am so grateful for having started this community because I've actually made some really cool friends that I would never have met otherwise. And we have explored some pretty cool places. If it wasn't for people at the dip, then I would never have discovered Arbirlot Waterfall, which is definitely my favourite spot for dipping. And it started off just as simply beach dips, but we have definitely gone further afield, longer journeys, and some cool dips like cliff jumping at Arbirlot. Now, as for the social section, I usually do end up just eating with everyone, but I've been feeling really crap when I'm eating any processed food, so I simply just brought 3 boiled eggs with some salt and some tea. And seeing how I was in menstruation, it just felt so much more fitting to take care of my body. And afterwards, I then spent the rest of the day on a little adventure with a friend. Now, this is a new connection I made pretty recently, and I feel so grateful for connections right now. The conversations I had with this friend they just really triggered a cascade of realizations within myself. Like, I left questioning so much, and the main thing we actually were speaking about it wasn't the main thing we were speaking about, but it was a common theme was sexuality, and it really got me thinking, what does sexuality mean to me? Like, I see people so freely expressing their sexuality and they're so confident in it, and it actually made me question, am I confident in my own? And the answer is no, I'm really not. I hold so much shame around past sexual experiences, and they've almost got like this tight grip on me, and they just weigh me down, and I give them permission to weigh me down. So after meeting with this friend and spending the day with her and seeing how free she is, it really inspired me to start leaning into what sexuality means to me, how I define it, how it feels in my body. And sexuality goes way beyond just sex. Obviously, there's your sexual preferences, that's a huge part. But then there's aspects like your thoughts, feelings, desires, conversations, that this all ties into sexuality. And for me, it's been a very interesting journey because I feel like in my head I've always just thought like my sexuality is that I'm straight. But I'm slowly unraveling that there is so much more. And following on from last weekend when I was really questioning what I personally felt being a woman meant to me, I feel like this is kind of spiraled onwards from that, of what does sexuality mean to me as a woman in this feminine body. Now, I am very much still unraveling it all. I know there's so much more confidence for me to gain here. There's so much more authenticity I could gain in terms of how I'm expressing it. However, it has just been very interesting understanding it all. Now, another thing I was realizing as we were driving there was I just simply do not spend enough time in nature. Like, I go into nature and I feel so grounded and I feel so at home, yet I just get so caught up in work and train and having the perfect routine or building success within my life that I really pull myself away from the simple things in life, like sitting in nature and allowing it to ground me, allowing it to settle my energy, and spending pretty much the entire day outside, especially day one of menstruation, just felt so aligned with myself. Now, here we are having some ginger, lemon, and honey tea. So, I am day one of menstruation, and I do want to get in the water. I really want to get in the water because I feel like there's so many different opinions out there of a woman shouldn't do cold water therapy. It's actually really bad for her body. It just triggers stress. And, well, if you're living in chronic stress, then yes, okay, doing cold water therapy is not your answer. However, if you are able to manage your stress levels, like, stress isn't bad, as long as we can then regulate ourselves afterwards. So I really want to get in the water because I feel it really cleanses me, and around my period I actually feel really, really drawn to it. However, I am aware that my body temperature is a little harder to regulate, so this is why I made the ginger tea. So ginger tea is really good at warming your womb, and then I poured it over my feet again because warm feet, warm wombs. So this was before I got into the water, and now I actually did only get up to my waist, and you know what, I felt really comfortable. I was just sitting on the rocks and the water was cleansing me as I had desired. And honestly, it was exactly what I needed. I came out and I didn't feel cold. I had some more tea, poured some more tea over my feet, and in all honesty, I'm so glad that I semi got in the water. Now, I think this is actually a really important factor of aligning with your menstrual cycle, because you can look online and there's going to be rules of what you should do in each phase and what you should eat in each phase, and I suggest some of these rules, I do, but the most important thing above all of those rules is that you connect in with your body and understand exactly how your body works, because something might work for me but it might not work for you, and I feel that goes above and beyond any rules or what science might say. It's about listening to your body and understanding. And the thing is, with every cycle that passes, you may change your mind, and that's also allowed. So what might work for you one cycle, actually 6 cycles down the line, it now no longer feels aligned, and that is okay. You're allowed to grow and you're allowed to evolve, and I feel this is something that is missing within the cycle syncing community online through social media these days, is about really listening to your own body. When I first started cycle syncing, I got so caught up in all the little rules and I was stressing myself out hugely that actually my period started getting worse. I started getting acne, all these other symptoms started coming in, and I just felt like I was doing absolutely everything right, but because I was so hyper focused on these rules, it was just a new form of restriction, which is something I have always so naturally fallen into, and it just became a new form of restriction. So I had to pull away from that and understand that I'm human, I'm not perfect, I'm gonna make mistakes, and actually it's okay to give myself space for mistakes so that I can flow and I can learn. Now I'm at a place where I really honour my body truly. So like today, only half getting in the water because it's just what my body felt like it needed. And whilst we're on the topic of our cycles, I would like to discuss luteal energy a little bit and then that transition into menstruation. So this past cycle I've had, I have felt really good training. I have felt so much stronger. However, when luteal came, I started to feel this real deep sense of discomfort in my body, and most women will probably agree that they felt in luteal they can speak more negatively towards their body, and I definitely was noticing these thoughts creep in. I don't act on them anymore like I used to, but I'm aware that they're still there, and it was this feeling of like my body hasn't changed as such. I've not put on any more fat or anything. However, I am getting stronger, and that feeling of taking up more space, being slightly bigger in my body in a healthy way, was what felt really uncomfortable. And then as I flowed into menstruation, I was then able to shed light on this. I was able to physically shed and emotionally shed, and now starting to, still being on my period, but starting to feel that follicular energy coming in. I now look at my body and view it very differently. There's way more positive thoughts about my body, and I can see how strong I actually am. And it was just a nice reminder of, even though I have done so much work on my cycle and also my body image, that's been a huge part of my life since I was early teens, there's still little moments where it creeps in. Okay, it's nowhere near the same degree that they used to be, but it's interesting simply being aware that these underlying thoughts still linger and there's still more for me to unravel. And well, I guess this all ties back to sexuality in the end. There is this still this slight disconnect within my body, this shame that I carry about who I am and how I express myself and wanting to keep myself small, and this blocks me from freely expressing my sexuality. And actually something I have noticed within myself is I have never enjoyed training legs. I've always been one for stretching and for upper body. I have hated training legs, and recently I have actually been enjoying it and really been getting into the flow with it. And well, since doing it, I feel like my hips have actually started to loosen off. My pelvic floor is finally strengthening, because when I was younger, I obviously carried so much shame, and then I was also very anxious, so I peed every 45 minutes, which is just so not good. And I'd say I'm up to if I've obviously not drank anything, I can go quite a while, but I'd say I can go a good 2 hours now, which maybe is still not perfect, but is a huge improvement for me. But yeah, since training legs more, I've realised how much discomfort there was within my hips, how tense and tight they are, and how that suppressed emotion has been stored in my hips, and actually gently moving into my hips and training them and strengthening them has hugely allowed me to release it and feel more confident in my body when I'm having these negative thoughts. It's actually been way more easier feeling stable and safe in my hips to release these thoughts from my mind. Now, I am going to stop rambling on because I could go forever. However, I am just feeling this deep sense of gratitude for all the connections I have around me. I feel I am in such a deep transformative phase of my life, and I have been making so many new connections lately, and I am just seeing how much each connection is teaching me about myself. I have so much I can learn from all of these beautiful souls I have been meeting, and I feel I walk away from time spent with them, and I am so deeply reflecting on so many parts of myself, and it's really contributing to this deep transformation that I am feeling within. And all of this has got me so excited to simply be present in my life, to actually make sure I'm going out and spending time in nature, being with loved ones. And also, I feel the way I am now showing up in my work has changed so much. I'm giving myself time to rest, I'm giving myself time to play, I'm giving myself time to spend with loved ones. And then the way I show up in my work has shifted hugely. And I just find it kind of amazing that it's taken me so long to realize this. I've always said nature doesn't rush, so why do you? But I've never truly lived by it until now. I feel I am actually really starting to live by that phrase, and now everything else in my life actually feels like it is aligning exactly as it needs to be, and I feel this deep sense of release, of I'm no longer attaching to these timelines. There's all this stuff that I want to create in my life, but I'm just trusting that if it's meant to be, then it will, and it will come into fruition at exactly the time it is meant to be. Now, by the time I got home, I was pretty hungry. We'd only had some of my
healthy alternative to cake, so there was nothing processed, and a few clementines. But when we got home, Jack and I had shared a fillet steak to start, and then we had a steak each as our main with some chips, and we also made some homemade condiments. So we had this chimichurri sauce. I can't remember exactly which herb it is. I want to say parsley, and it also had some like chili in it. And then we also had this bone marrow butter, which is so tasty and nutritious. It is officially Sunday, and I'm thinking I will always wrap my vlogs up on a Sunday now, because by the end of Saturdays, when I have so much going on, I just want to slow down and soften and come home to myself and unwind. The last thing I want to do is really to sit and try to unravel it into words and express it through words here. So I like to give myself time to sleep, to rest, and then I can kind of come at it fresher again. But I'm currently sat outside. This is my favourite tree in the whole world. I always sit under, and the sun is shining. Oh, it's amazing. And then we also have this tree. This tree I've always thought was very like masculine in nature, and this one very feminine in nature. Just something I felt there's really no logic behind it. So sometimes I sit under here, but I want to connect with my masculine energy more. I go and sit under that tree. Maybe it's just hippy dippy woo woo stuff, but it resonates with me. But I'm sitting, I've had some cacao, and I've journaled, and I feel reborn. I feel reborn for so many reasons, because I'm now menstruating, so with my bleed, there's always that sense of rebirth. However, I feel opening myself up to new connections and experiences have just been so important in my evolution lately. I feel I am really in a deep transformative phase within my life, and a season within my cycle currently, but going on a wider scale beyond just my cycles. I'm definitely in a very deeply transformative phase of my life, and I'm just feeling so much gratitude for the connections that I've been forming lately and the experiences that I've been allowing myself to have. I have definitely been one for isolation, instead of the fear of being seen, heard, misunderstood has definitely always led me to withdraw, to literally close my body up, make myself small, and shut myself out from the outer world. And recently, with the experiences and connections I've been having and forming, I am really starting to. I've done over the past few years a lot of work on my worth, but I feel like I'm really unraveling it on a whole new depth and level right now. So it's felt really amazing. But yes, I'm gonna wrap it up here because I had an amazing day yesterday, and I don't really think I have much else left to say. If you've made it to here and you've enjoyed the content, please do like and subscribe. That'll help for growing, and I will see you in the next video.